Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Louise Marshall. I'm a clinical psychologist at University College Hospital, and I'm joined by Megan, who's one of our very experienced assistant psychologists. So we, as a team, in the pediatric and adolescent psychology team, link into lots of different medical teams, one of whom, of course, is the diabetes team. And our remit really is to try and support young people and families in the best possible way. So we will offer individual work, family work, parent work, but we also run groups because we find that that is often one of the best ways to really reach young people with diabetes. And the Tree of Life really came out of things we were hearing from families, that traditional approaches that we maybe tend to offer in psychology just weren't really hitting the brief, and so we had to try something different. And this Tree of Life was something that was going on in other parts of the globe, and originally was for children who had been traumatized as a result of losing parents to HIV and AIDS. What we hope to do today is a very brief overview of the Tree of Life group, and we'll start with a few background principles, and then we'll talk about what it looks like in practice, and we have a 5-minute video which we made recently, which you'll really hear from the young people who've been part of it, and then we'll finish with a few outcomes as well. So the group in practice is for lots of different age groups. So we have ones that run for under 11s. We have the 11 to 12 age group, which really captures young people who are about that transition age as well. And then 13 plus. We do tend to struggle with the older teenagers who maybe have different ideas than their parents, but whether it's good to come and spend a whole day with psychologists. But each of the groups follow the same principles, which is a chance to explore the identity of a young person outside of their health condition, outside of type 1 diabetes. It's also a chance to meet others who are facing very similar challenges. And what we hope to do is really have young people involved at lots of different stages. So, for example, those who've been part of the groups, we invite them to come back in the role of peer trainers. So they'll then be experienced, slightly older young people who can help with people who are there as a first-time participant. Now, of course, being diabetes, we need to make sure there's enough support on hand for young people, particularly the younger ones. And so we're often joined by one of the nursing team to help with the practical side. And I guess a final point is that these techniques can be used in one-to-one sessions as well. So narrative therapy is something that some of you may have heard of, certainly psychologists in the room, which is an approach that really, as the name suggests, looks at the stories that we tell about ourselves, but also the stories that are told about us. And in the context of health, often those stories can feel quite problem-saturated. We've heard so far about all the different challenges of trying to manage the challenges of type 1 diabetes, and so often those can be the dominant stories, the medical ones. And we like to believe that young people are the experts in their lives, not just generally, but also in managing diabetes. And that really importantly, problems are separate from people. So we use and hold on to a quote that comes from Michael White's literature, which is the problem, the person is not the problem. So on the slide here, you'll see that the medical condition, we try and view it as separate from the young person, which allows them to gain a bit of control and talk about it in a different way. And we make the assumption that all young people have skills, values, commitments, and abilities which they already have and maybe just need a little bit of teasing out to help them deal with the challenges of living with a health condition. And as I said, as the name suggests, we're interested in stories about lives, but also relationships. So a diagnosis doesn't just affect the young person that you meet in clinic, of course, it affects the whole family. So we try to think about that in a relational way, and you'll hear about how we involve parents in the group process as well. And so a couple of pictures you'll see on this slide here, which is how we start having conversations with young people about diabetes in particular, but about their lives in general. And the principle is that instead of going straight into talking about the things that feel really tricky, we start talking in the way that makes them feel in control and safe to do so. So as I mentioned, the work on Tree of Life came out of working in Africa with young people who'd been orphaned by HIV and AIDS, and so the riverbank position was a metaphor that made sense to them. So instead of swimming in the river with the crocodile, it's about trying to find a way to the edge of the riverbank, stand on the side, and then see how do we make sense of the dangers that are around. In our context, we might think of Euston Road, just around the corner, and if you're standing right in the middle of Euston Road with your phone out, trying to work out how to get to a building along the road, it's going to be really tough. So the idea is to find a way to the side of the road in order to then do that thinking about where to go and to problem solve in a way that feels manageable.
So the groups themselves, what are the kind of the aims? As we kind of mentioned before, the hope is that young people would get a chance to meet others living with diabetes, to feel comfortable sharing experiences and to talk about the effects of diabetes, to develop a positive view of themselves and to increase self-esteem, to learn about and share knowledge about living with diabetes, and to position and confirm themselves as experts in their condition. As Louise mentioned, that kind of idea that a young person is the expert in their own life, and to change their relationship with diabetes so that it can impact less negatively on their life. So what is this tree of life idea? It's a bit of a metaphor. So we ask young people that come to our groups to get a piece of paper and draw a tree on the piece of paper, and then to use each part of the tree as a metaphor for a different part of their life or identity. So often young people will start with the roots at the bottom of the page, and that's thinking about kind of maybe their culture, where they've come from, family history. It might be kind of parts of their religion, or parts of kind of, their kind of family life. They then maybe think about the ground, so their daily life. What do they do on a kind of a day-to-day basis? Their hobbies, kind of what makes up their week. The trunk, they'll then be asked about their skills and abilities, their values. Often that can be quite challenging to think about. So we might ask them, if I was to ask your mum or your dad, what might they say about you? What might one of your best friends at school say? The branches are their hopes and dreams for the future, and that can be big or small. So there's no expectation to have these, big wild dreams. It can just be thinking about kind of the next few months maybe, or bigger if they like. And then there are the leaves, so the significant people that make up their life. That might be people that are with them today. It might be people that are no longer around. It might be kind of characters in books they've read, celebrities that they really admire, often pets. I know it says people, but often pets are really significant parts of the young people's lives, and they go on there as well. And then there are the flowers and the fruits. So the fruits are the gifts that are given by others. So what do other people give to them, and what do they appreciate about the other people in their lives, and what do they think they give to those other people? So often it's thinking about those significant people on the leaves and that kind of reciprocal things. And so we do quite a lot. Actually, let's go back a slide for a second. We do get each young person to individually do that. And then we interview them in front of the rest of the group. So our group sizes are normally about kind of 8 to 10 young people at the kind of the max. And they'll be interviewed by one of the team with everyone else witnessing that. And that's a really important part of narrative practice, is the witnessing of preferred identity stories. So that difference between kind of the problem story being really dominant, but actually what are some of these other stories that form parts of their lives that need to be kind of given some airtime, if you like. So all of the other young people will witness their interview and then be asked to give a fruit to the person that's being interviewed, something that they've been struck by or that they've noticed from hearing their story. And that can be a really powerful part of the day, watching that kind of connection between different young people. So that's kind of how we would spend the morning of our group. And then we'd start to think about kind of storms and responses. So that morning is really about getting those young people into that safe place to stand, talking about things that they like talking about and the things that make up their lives, before we come on to kind of some of the challenges. So with those trees that we've got, we put them all together on the wall and make a forest of trees and really think about kind of the collective in the room and the collective stories. And with that forest, we think about the storms that might impact that forest. Again, storms being another metaphor for challenges, and the challenges that might face young people, that might face young people anyway, and then the challenges of diabetes. So diabetes being kind of one storm in that young person's life. It's probably really hard to read these two pieces of paper up there, but the left-hand side is some of the storms that young people face that come up in that conversation. So it's really a group conversation where we're trying to hear ideas from the young people. And then some of the things on the right are some of the responses that the young people have made in response to those storms. It's really important to kind of recognise that no one is passive in kind of how life happens, and that people are always responding in ways, and it's just kind of a way of kind of picking out those responses and what are young people doing to manage. And that's a group conversation towards the end of the day where we kind of collate those knowledges between all of the young people. At the end of the day, I don't think we've got a slide for it, have we? Well, at the end of the day, we do a certificate ceremony. So we invite the parents, friends, siblings, anyone who wants to come along to join us at the end of the day to have a bit of a summary of the day and for the young people to be given a certificate for their kind of attendance, but also to remind them of the things that they have talked about today and kind of to hold on to. So the certificate will talk about some of the things that are on that tree that they want to kind of hold on to and remember. So this is an example of a tree that we'll put up on the side of the room so that everyone kind of knows which bit of the tree represents which bit when they're doing the drawing. And this is a tree that was created by the peer trainers that are part of the project. So as Lou mentioned, the peer trainers form a really vital role in our project in terms of being a bit of a buffer in the groups between the young people and us as professionals, but that we also hold days for peer trainers to come back and join us. And kind of stay connected to the project, and this is one of the pieces of art that they created on that day. So that's kind of staying connected to the project and kind of and still staying connected to the people that are part of that project as well. And the video that we're going to show you is a video that was created at one of those peer trainer days that run once a year. So the peer trainers asked if they could make a video about the project and what it's about. So that's what we're going to hopefully see if it works. We'll do that. Working in the NHS, I always get really scared about technology and it not working because it never seems to. Is it? Did you do it again?
I guess so.
Oh, there you go.
The Tree of Life originated in Africa. The project has narrative therapy principles which really underpin the project. So the idea is for young people to tell stories in ways that make them feel stronger, to separate their identity from diabetes, and to empower them to feel more positive in telling stories about themselves.
I just think it's a really life-affirming day, and it's so nice to see your whole life on a piece of paper. I find it very satisfying.
You are a tree weathering these storms, and these storms are diabetes and whatever else. And just that it's about, like meeting new people, finding new things about yourself that you perhaps didn't know before. We've all got diabetes and we've all got that common ground. And it's funny, like, and we hear people's pumps going and we hear people's meters going, and it's good.
I didn't really know what to expect at first, but you know, as the day went on, I got really integrated into the group, and of course everyone was really lovely.
Once I was in there and we did like the icebreaker and everything, I kind of got to know people a little bit better, and it was just nice seeing people who were going through the same sort of thing.
I was one of the first younger groups to join, and I found it really helpful to help with my anxiety and to speak about my diabetes.
It really made me feel fit in, and it was great to meet some people that had the same experiences and knew what I was going through.
It makes you more like, don't feel alone, because there's others that are going through the same thing.
I've gained a lot of tips from people and also had the opportunity to share my experiences and help other people. I want to be able to help people overcome what I overcome, and to be able to help someone and be a part of that. It's really a nice feeling.
I'd like to learn from the experiences and help people have an experience like I did.
The impact it had on me was really big. It made me a lot more confident around the whole diabetes topic.
I think it does make a difference to living with diabetes because it does give you those connections and those other people. So feeling alone can make something feel much worse than actually it would if you had a friend to talk about it with, and I think those connections are invaluable.
We really hear about how important that sense of community is, and lots of the young people who attend the group feel that they really want to be able to give back and help other young people.
The peer trainer who was in our group, she was really helpful, and she sort of brought you out of your shell.
The peer trainers that were on my session were really nice, and I kind of wanted to be able to be like that for another person because it was really helpful for me.
The peer trainers all have diabetes as well, so that adds another level of understanding and knowing that they've been through the same things that you have.
So I feel like the peer trainers benefit the group by giving people confidence, helping people gel together, and just helping people get the best out of the day.
Definitely consider it. You'll gain lots of tips and experience from other people that are going through exactly the same thing that you're going through.
You never know until you try it, and it's really an experience for everyone to enjoy.
Definitely come.
Great, so hopefully that video has given you a bit of, in a much better way than we could, a bit of an idea of what the day looks like. And it really is such a joy and a privilege to be part of it. So the project itself has been going since 2010. I joined the team in 2018. And it's just a brilliant chance to spend a day with young people and find out more about them and how they respond to the challenges of diabetes. Of course, today is a day about evaluation and thinking about, is what we're doing helpful? How do we support young people? And so we're really keen at UCLH to evaluate our work as much as possible. I've put this abstract up on here. The reference is at the end of the slide, so if you're interested, this paper from 2017 that Lucy wrote, Lucy was one of the psychologists in the video, goes through in much more detail about what the group looks like and how we approach it. And the aim of that paper was to evaluate the kind of impact that the group had. So in the next couple of slides, I'll just tease out some of that. So these are outdated numbers. It says there a total of 93 children and young people attended the groups. We're now up to about 130. So we try to run the groups 3 or 4 times a year. And from interviewing young people about their experience of the group, we, in that paper, Lucy and the team pulled out some themes. So I guess some qualitative outcomes from the group. Of course, we're really interested in keeping with narrative therapy to hear about stories and what people really feel about the experiences they've had. And what that paper pulled out is 2 important main themes, each with 3 sub-themes. So the first main theme is connecting with others. You saw in the video there just how important it was for young people to come together, to meet others who have similar experiences and similar challenges. And that might be young people who are at the very beginning of their journey with diabetes, it might be later on, but that idea of moving from a place of isolation to one of inclusion and feeling a sense of belonging was a really important aspect of the group. It's also a space in which to share experiences. We have a whole day, so we've got plenty of time to really hear lots of strands of stories from young people. And a huge amount of knowledge in the room. So learning from each other in a way that it just has a different impact than what we might be able to offer as health professionals. The second main theme was about building that positive view of the self, which seems to be an important part of helping someone to keep going on that journey. Firstly, focusing on the qualities that young people already have and tapping into those or thinking about where they want to go. Separating themselves from diabetes seems to just offer a really powerful position for young people to feel like this is a condition they're living with instead of this is a problem that they are. And so in our team, the whole diabetes team at UCLH, we like to use language that suggests that a young person is living with diabetes rather than a diabetic child, just to offer that sense of power, which takes me on to the final point, which is, young people leave that day feeling like they can really go on and do something different. So hopefully we've given you a sense of what the Tree of Life project is all about. As a team, we run training for other teams. And actually, as we speak, we have colleagues in Wales who are delivering Tree of Life training for a team up there. But we also run in-house sessions, so coming to the hospital to have training. If anyone at all is interested in finding out more, the email address is on this slide there, and we'd welcome any kind of interest or questions. All right. I don't know how we're doing for timing, but if there is time for questions, we're very happy to take them. If not, wrap up.